podcast, three game developers drinking good Arab tea. I'm your host.
Fuzzy.
Yes?
I can't
Fuzzy.
wait. We have to ask this question now.
This is important.
It's really
Do you use like product in your beard?
I was listening to last week's episode. First of all, very thoughtful. I missed you guys very much. Thank you so much
We missed you too.
for the kindness and all the nice words. So I was listening to Rami Ismail and Osama Dorias
I've heard about them.
as they're having some good Arab tea and talking about me, your host for today, Fauzi Mesmar.
But do you use product?
The answer is no, actually. So, like, I really appreciate like how all the kindness that you've bestowed upon my facial hair.
I haven't decided if
fully natural facial hair.
It just goes like this.
I haven't decided if I believe you yet. This
subhanallah.
can't be natural.
I wake up in the morning
Mashallah.
looking like
Mashallah.
this. Yeah, believe it or not.
Wow, I am jealous.
So my father used to always tell me that you don't have a production problem, you just have a distribution problem. Which
so
is
good.
ouch, but yes, touche.
Good beard, man.
Some of that Mizmar family humor.
The goatee comb over is coming to you.
The come over is a thing. So no, like I just wash it. That's it.
Not even a gray. Are there gray hairs in your beard yet?
Not yet. Maybe there's two. Maybe there's two.
Maybe there's two. Undecided.
I plucked them away because I'm in denial.
I used to have one gray beard hair that would always grow in the middle of my beard, and my partner at the time always called it Gandalf.
So that's the funny thing. I have a salt and pepper beard now, like salt and pepper. But before I did, when I had a black beard, I had this one longer than normal white hair that would just grow faster than the rest of my beard for whatever reason and point in a different direction. It was foreshadowing the rest, I guess.
I think I have like one of the few I have is like this one long white hair that just splits my mustache perfectly in half.
Yep.
It creates the border. It's hard not to notice it. So that's the first to go usually.
Yeah.
I love it.
But no, I just trim it. There was a period in my life when I was trying to do like a Pringles pointy mustache, in which like I twirl it and I point it upwards.
Oh, that would look good on you.
And a friend of mine was like, "Oh, I like that you're trying to be like, trying something new, like you're going old Dali." And he sent me, as I think it was a Christmas gift or something like this. He sent me a mustache cream, and the best part about that mustache cream is the name of the brand. It was called the Crazy Arab.
Wow.
I was like, how did he find it? But I really appreciate it. He sent it all the way from New Zealand. So
Wow. Cool.
yeah, so but by the time it got there, I was already over the whole Dali mustache fad. It didn't last that long. It was too much work after like twirling my mustache all time long. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you make up some evil plans, it's much easier to twirl your mustache, right?
That's the problem. Yeah, the evil plans used to come in first.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never really done well with a mustache, so I always skip that part.
Yeah. I'm not big on mustaches either. I wish I had the face for it. I just don't.
Fauzi has the face for it. That's the problem. Fauzi can pull it.
Like you get. I get so used to it that I like when the pandemic first started, and everybody was like, "You should stop touching your face." And then, and then we're also on Zoom calls where I'm staring at my face the entire time.
Yeah.
And I'm basically watching myself touching my face every other second.
Yeah,
I
every
go like-
third second. Yeah.
And if it's just about not touching my face, I would have been dead in the first 3 hours of this pandemic.
Yep.
I
was
didn't
the
realize
same.
how much I touched my face too. It's ridiculous. Like if you had asked me, I would have told you, "Oh, never." But my hand is.
Why would I touch my face?
Why would I touch
That's
my
weird.
face? But my hand's always there.
Yep. Yeah, same. It's always my beard as well. It's like just
Yeah.
my hand is my beard is leaning on my hand, or I have my your sort of like your fist against the side of your beard, or you're just kind of like you're doing the thing where you're moving your hand from the sides of the beard to like the bottom.
Yeah.
Like in sort of like closing your fingers around your beard, that kind of thing down your jawline, and it's just like. I'm just sitting there doing all of that, just like not paying attention. I was like, wait, what? Excuse me? I do that?
Man, it's so tough. The idea of like, so there were times when I over trimmed my mustache or my beard, and then like I go to my instinctive while I'm thinking, just touch
Is it
my
scratchy?
facial hair. Yeah, and I just like when I couldn't find anything, it was very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. So I couldn't
It's just
wait.
not right.
Yeah, it had to grow back as quick as
Yeah.
possible. So to resume normal
I have
function.
never lost this beard since I was 17. You know that?
Wow.
Oh wow! Really?
It has been there since I was 17. Yeah, because I was working for, I was an intern, but like working for a game studio in the US, and they didn't know how old I was.
Hmm.
And then because we were communicating over chat, and then eventually, because they were paying me a little in terms of like software and stuff, and then eventually one day it was my birthday, and everybody hopped on a video call, and they realized that I was a literal kid.
Oh.
And I was sort of like, oh, we didn't realize you were a literal kid. So then I never wanted to look like a young kid again. So I started growing the beard, and then it just stayed because I got so used to it. I have no idea what my jawline looks like. Just genuinely I do not know what my chin looks like. Haven't seen it in like 15 years.
Okay, this is my life mission now to see Rami's chin. I don't know how I'm gonna pull it off, but I'm gonna pull it off.
Try to get a Gillette sponsorship so that pay $1 million for Rami to shave his beard.
But it's really wild because also it just grows back really fast.
Yeah.
So even if I shave it, you have like 2 hours. You're too late.
The Arab genes is too strong, man.
Yeah. If you shave, by the time the razor blade hits like the bottom, it's like the top is already growing back.
I usually try to keep some kind of facial hair. I prefer it. But I do that thing where the right side is a little bit shorter, so I adjust the left side, and then it's a little bit shorter. So, I go back to the right side, and I keep doing that until I realize I don't have any beard left. So like, when you're not thinking straight and you're like, all right, fine, I'll just shave it off. Now it looks just odd. So I've done that where I don't want to look like I had no sideburns, but just a beard, and then it's gone. But usually I have a go-to with some kind of facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I prefer it, and that I've had that since college. Like if you see old pictures of me, but yeah, you'll see the odd picture of me clean shaven. I'm not a fan. I mean, everyone's face is different. I think I look better with facial hair.
I agree.
Yeah.
My face
you.
is a perfect circle as well, without any kind of facial hair.
Yeah, me too.
So like adding some kind of beard gives me a little bit of jaw definition.
Yeah, just gives you a face, right?
Otherwise, I look like an egg with like
a very handsome egg. I might add.
Thank you, Sammy.
But it's
kind.
also just like I think like in terms of face, like we probably all have very similar features in that eyebrows are pretty like notable, and I don't know, but my arms have a lot of hair. Yeah. So it's like the kind of thing where if my face is just like no hair, I imagine that would look really odd to just have like these very heavy
gorilla.
Yeah, they have these very heavy like hair, like this very heavy hair everywhere, and then just like nothing.
The contrast is too huge.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work on me.
That's a different distribution problem. So no.
Right?
Same genes though.
Yeah. But how have you been, you Fauzi? We've
Oh
missed
my-
you.
Oh
Was
my
it that
God.
whole thing? How he's been?
No. This is how his facial hair has
This is
been.
how my face has been. But
And now we're going to how
How's
Fauzi's
the
been.
rest of you? How,
not the man behind the face,
Right.
which is behind the facial hair.
Right. We're going deep many layers now.
The third layer.
The third layer of Arab men.
So
The first two layers are facial hair, right?
Yes.
Go for it.
I've had an eventful couple of weeks, to say the least. Like, that'll be the understatement of the century, really.
Right.
Which is kind of like, the timing, which like I wanted to take a couple of weeks off because I thought that there's going to be a lot of buzz, and I wanted to the Habibis to be its own thing while I focus on dealing with a whole bunch of stuff that are happening in my professional life. So, as you know, we spoke last time before I was on the podcast. Battlefield 2042 launched November 19th. It's a project that I've been working on for quite some time. Thank you very much. I've been, very excited about it, and I spoke about how happy I was with the game being out and players playing it and all of that. But at the time, what I didn't speak about is that I already had plans to go to a different company, and I spoke to my manager about this, of course, over the course of the discussions that we've had. We were talking about my succession, what's going to happen afterwards. But, we both agreed that we don't want to distract the teams and we want to have the focus be on the launch, which is,
Right.
We've been pouring our hearts and souls into this game. I don't want, and neither did my boss, we don't want anything to distract from the message of this game is launching. We're celebrating the team and their accomplishments and all of that stuff. And also, I wanted to be with my team until the last minute. So I haven't taken time off since God knows when. Because I was completely focused on, I want to be with the team as the game launches. So, my last week was the week after launch. So with my last day being on November 26th. And I wanted to reach out to my team in the middle of the week to kind of, tell them that I'm going. I wrote this communication message that went out by email and on Slack to the teams to informing them basically of what I just told you now, and how honored and privileged I am to work with these people. And if any of you peeps listening, I love you. I'm proud of all of the work you've done, and I'll miss working with you very, very much. So we put out that newsletter, came out to the company, get a lot of communication from the team, sad to see you go and that kind of stuff. Very nice things. And then, I was like, all right, so now I can take a couple of days off, just to sleep, because I was starting a job literally the Monday after, so my last day is Friday, and then the Monday after is the next job, which I will talk about a little bit afterwards.
Yeah.
So in one of those 2 days off, I wake up, I think it's 6:30 a.m. and I look at my phone, and my phone is blown up. There's 800 notifications, and I'm like, Ya Fattah Ya Alim.
Sorry for being one of those notifications.
Actually, Rami, you were I wish I was up at night to see your message, because that would have gotten me the heads up, but by the time I woke up and saw it,
I saw the first article hit, and then a friend of mine who works in press was like, "Hey, your friend is leaving DICE?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well," I'm like, "Oh, let me message Fauzi." The email, the news is out there.
So I wake up and I start to realize 600 notifications. What's going on? I was like, all right, here I go. I don't know what I've done, but
I've done it.
But I've done it. But immediately I thought, the news is out. And the email that I sent to the team leaked, and one individual writer made an article about it, and then next thing I know, pretty much every media outlet that talks about games in any language has written about how the head of design leaves the game after launch, and then all these other speculations about if that has anything to do with the game and anything like that. And even in my email that I sent to the team, another line that's been used very much in the media, I was people know me, so I added a little bit of my sense of humor to the thing. So I was like, I was made an offer I can't refuse. I was referencing the Godfather movies.
Yeah, of course.
But also a literal offer that was too good to pass out. Like a really good job opportunity.
Right.
And then, a bunch of people are starting to go like, oh, an offer you can't refuse. Oh, they, like...
There's some mafia going on here.
Exactly.
Oh,
or like,
Ubisoft showed up at his house and was like, what a beautiful house. Would be a shame if something happened to it.
At the time, nobody knew that I was going to Ubisoft just yet. So they thought some kind of restructuring within the company or anything like this.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my God. Speculation.
So all of this stuff is happening. So and I'm getting all these messages from people I know or people I don't know, either telling me congrats or sorry to see you go, or in some cases good riddance. And I was like, what?
Wow.
what's going on? And then I've seen that a weird thing and a good thing happen at the same time. So a lot of people were like, that is the person who made the entire game, which is couldn't be far away from the truth. And they go so all these design decisions that we dislike about the game,
are clearly him.
Are his dumb ideas.
Right.
And the interesting part is that there was another group of people, of people that played the game, that like these design ideas, and they're fighting with the other group and go we like him because he saved them.
Right.
So there was two groups of people that are, with regardless of intentions, really
just went too hard on things.
And they think I have way more power than I actually do, and also disregard that there's hundreds of people that worked in this game, and I play a role in this, of course, but my role is minuscule compared to the large design team that has been involved in, and all the wonderful people that have been working on this game.
Right. Isn't it like the article, the old IGN article? There's a tendency among the press to attribute the creation of a game to a single person, says Warren Spector, creator of Thief and Deus Ex. It's still one of my favorite press lines in the history of all games press ever.
Do you know if it was played for laughs or it was really actually?
That was 100% an actual line. It's
I remember the article. That was hilarious.
Yeah. It's literally the first line of the article as well.
So good.
It makes me very happy. But yeah, there's a tendency among the press to attribute the creation of a game to a single person, says Fauzi Mesmar, creator of Battlefield 2042.
Sole creator.
Just the only one.
So the only one that made all these decisions. And then people read these headlines.
No, you also did the modeling and the development, right? You wrote all code.
And came up with all the ideas. And all
you added the multiplier for $10,000.
The sound effects. I don't know how, as an Arab, you got to fire all those weapons, because I'd be arrested if I got near them. But very impressive. No, congrats to the team for pulling it off. Absolutely.
And the entire team kind of reached out to me in support and go we're really sorry that people are saying these kinds of things. For me, at first I was a little bit sad because in my entire career with everybody I've worked in, now 18 years making games, no one has ever questioned my work ethic.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody has ever, and when I'm interviewing for a new job and they ask me for references, I go I'm that confident, literally talk to anyone I've ever worked with. Yeah. Reach out to them and ask them about me. And whenever I'm working at any company, I always ask for 360 anonymous feedback anyway. Yeah. Because I want to be better. So nobody's ever doubted my work ethic before. So at first I was a little bit hurt because there was a bunch of people that go there's some people that go oh, he worked on Candy Crush before and now he works on this, and it's it's not something I'm hiding, it's on my public profile.
Yeah, it's literally on your website.
I'm proud of that game as well as I'm proud of any other game I've ever worked
with. It's a good game.
And I'm proud of my colleagues that have worked in all of these things.
Right.
And like one of the comments, one person was like, "Of course, that he brought monetization into the game." And literally, the in-game store of Battlefield, when it launches, had nothing. We're not selling anything. There was no monetization in the game. But there was a bunch.
So
of
you did a bad job of bringing monetization to the game.
Absolutely
that was what I was
ruined it.
supposed to do. I didn't do it definitely at launch. So a bunch of people started at first I was kind of sad because I'm getting all of these as well as support messages and all of this, a lot of these angry messages from people who don't like some design decisions in the game, but then those started escalating to the usual death threats and the go kill yourselves and all of that stuff. So I was like, my team at that point, they reached out, some of them were like, do you want us to talk about this? Like, no, please, nobody comment on this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if these guys coming after me means that they're not coming after my team, then that's great.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
It's good. Because I know I'm having another company and I'm starting up the next week, and that's gonna get under control. But two other wholesome things happened around the same time. Is that there was the overwhelming positivity from the game development world.
Mm-hmm.
And really shout out to everybody who reached out to me with kindness. There's so many, and I appreciate your kindness forever. Really, those moments mean a lot to me. You, Habibis, of course, topping the list.
You deserve it, Habibi.
Yeah, of course.
But so many people reached out with so much positivity that was, that immediately lifted me out of that that space of mind within an hour or less.
Good.
Other game developers out there that I've worked with and I didn't, and that reached out and just had a lot of nice things to say. The other really fascinating thing to see was the group of Arab game journalists and Arab Battlefield community.
Yeah.
Who just rose up and just flooded the internet with positivity pretty much everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And that felt really, really wholesome. But there was still about people who yeah, of course he ditched it, or he got fired, or something like this. And then literally I spent 2 days without a job because my last day was Friday. Then it was the weekend. And then I started my new gig on Monday with my new employer at Ubisoft. I started at Ubisoft as vice president of editorial. So my role is to support a lot of the creative teams at Ubisoft around the world. Mm-hmm. And as I start, there's some of the warmest welcome from everybody there at Ubisoft and editorial, wonderful people. And then Ubisoft were we were waiting for you for some time until you ship this game. Now we can go out with our own press release. And the press release went out. Again, I'm in the news. My phone blows up for the second time within a week. But that basically meant a lot of those speculation articles were now updated.
Right.
The the wording was changed instead of abandoned DICE.
Yeah, now it's just went to Ubisoft
for another job opportunity, or the dude that's supposed to have screwed up the game actually did a good job in the game that got other opportunities and stuff like that. So I feel fortunate that I was in an industry first of all in which a lot of my employers, they had my back. My team and colleagues and other people around the industry, they had my back and they really helped me through this. I never wanted fame of any kind. For me, I just appreciation and recognition within the game dev sphere is all I could ever dream about. I don't want that kind of fame, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Just seeing the overwhelming majority of kindness and all of that is always reminds me of why we do this, because whenever there is a dark section of the internet, or there are some people who might be misguided for anything and they're acting on their passion, there are groups of people that are positive, understanding, and supportive. And we should never forget that these are the people we're making these games for as well.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Well, that's the people I make the games for. I genuinely do. I do not make the games for the terrible people on the
Yeah,
internet. Like
yeah.
if they get kicked out of gaming forever, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to.
I don't want them to play my games. I don't want their money. Why would I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I it was fun to see your announcement. I didn't message you about the UB announcement because I was just like, I'm sure everybody is talking to you about that, and I get to congratulate you here. And it seems unplanned for you to be announcing that.
Yeah.
But I had to say I was very amused by by the press release from UB with your quote, because it's like, you know, these are big news moments and they're important, so they're very like, you know, you're very careful with how you say things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was just imagining you saying the quote you wrote, and it made me grin a little. Like, what was it? Let me see. I have it here somewhere. I'm excited to work with the talented teams across Ubisoft to nurture our collective creativity and build the future of Ubisoft's game together. Ubisoft brings together some of the most creative minds in video games, and I look forward to supporting them in their work to deliver truly meaningful entertainment experience to players. And I'm like, that's exactly what you mean, but just said like 5 steps politer. And I love that. I love that about press release, that you can just see you think that, but not in those words.
Yeah.
I always love that.
I love that, you know, they picked up a lot of the press. Like, you know, there are some words, you know, that I'm mentioning as I'm talking to the comms people are like, oh, we like that, so we want to use, like I was talking about when I'm not making games, I'm either playing them or talking about them.
Right.
And they're like, yep, that's going in. I'm like, okay, but it's also true. It consumes a huge part of my life. So, but, you know, like even, you know, I was head of design at DICE, but I always mention whenever I speak about it is that I serve the design team.
Yeah.
Because like I believe in servant leadership.
That's how it should be.
And which my job is to help you, you know, do your job in the best possible way, not to get in the way. You know, I need to support my people to do their best work.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of people mistake leadership as like, you know, they use the sort of ship metaphor, right? Where there's a captain and the captain says where the ship is going and how to. And I think that's not quite how game development works. It's a lot more. It's a lot more collaborative, right? Like you see what your team wants to do and where they're aligned and how that fits in the goals of where you want things to go, right? Or where things should go, or where the industry is going. But then within that, you want to create all the space possible for people to do their best work. I think that was one of the other things I liked was one of the quotes about you was Fauzi is one of the industry's most respected game designer and has a strong track record of uniting teams across various projects, expertise, and backgrounds. And I think that's why you are perfect for this kind of job. I think, like, because that's what you do, right? You're a facilitator. You help people, but you also you're more than capable of uniting people towards a goal.
Oh, thank you, man. That means a lot to me that you think that as well. So
I wanted to give you a little bit of behind the scenes as well, because I used to work at Ubisoft, and I have a lot of friends who still do, and some who worked with me and some who didn't. And the feeling of hope that they all expressed when that was announced, when it was announced that you were joining the team, it was overwhelming. Hope, like specifically that word. They were like, "You're going to bring about big change." I don't want to put pressure on you.
That's too late.
but that's the thing. Like, you already know that this is what is hoped of you, right? Yes. Like, this is you. I cannot imagine you took this job without the idea of like, people hope for me to make things better. Right,
and I will
even
do
if
my
they
best,
were
you know?
Right, exactly, and that's the best we can do. You know, inshallah khair, and inshallah you get the inshallah you get the space and you get the resources and everything to do that job. And I'm sure you have the support of the people that hired you. And you know, from there we will see what happens. It's an unpredictable industry, and the best we can do is the best we can do. But
exactly, so we'll always do our best. And
but I can see why they you know, hired you. Like, I understand.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see what happens.
Absolutely. If I'm sure if they could have hired 10 Fauzi's, I would have hired.
I think I would max it out at 3. I think that's because otherwise you get that problem where just leadership is just making decisions by playing Street Fighter.
I like that
and
problem. I want that problem.
I'm not sure about that. Like Ken, I'm not sure that works. I think I would max out at 3 Fauzies.
What's wrong with that, Rami?
See, this is why I would max out at 3 Fauzies, because there's still a possibility to vote against 3 of them. But if there's 10, it's just like, that's it. Fauzi, the Fauzi says something. So, I always wonder in that kind of scenario, do you like, for example, I think if you had like 3 Ramis, I think they would be disagreeing all the time, which is really strange to think. That 3 of me would just be like, yeah, no, I don't like that.
I'm getting like visions of the most Arab episode of Rick and Morty ever.
Yeah, three Osamas would basically be a Canadian standoff.
Right. 3 Osamas would just be that nothing would ever get done because people are just being hugging and like just like.
I like that. All right, I got to find 2 more Osamas.
Imagine if it's like that, 3-time multiplications of us, and it's 9 of us going to dinner together. A bill will never be paid.
Literally never.
Or it'll be paid 9 times.
You mean Fauzi, the second Fauzi paid? Astaghfirullah. I told him to not pay. Did he sneak off to the bathroom? He snuck up to the bathroom, didn't he? Yeah.
Who canceled my credit card?
Oh, wow. We'd also share credit cards.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. That's terrible, because when I get sad, I sometimes buy stuff.
Oh, no.
Do you think I would buy 3 times as much?
Yes.
Oh, no.
The math checks out.
Oh, no.
You'll have like, instead of a bunk bed, there's like a 3-layer bunk bed, all with air conditioning in it.
Right. That's important. But I'd also be annoyed having other Ramis sleep in the same room, so I'd need 3 rooms.
Oh, no. I'll never get sleep. I snore. All 3 of us will snore.
It'll be like a snoring symphony coming from the cellar.
Do you think they'll harmonize?
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what will happen. I don't know if I told this story before, but I went to GDC one time with my friend Jonathan. I won't say his last name just in case he doesn't want people to know who it is. And
okay, Jonathan.
And almost simultaneously, we shared a room, by the way. We shared a hotel room, and almost simultaneously, we warned each other that that we snored, and we're like, "Uh-oh, neither of us are getting sleep." That's not accurate. The first person to make it to bed will get sleep. It's the second person.
The other person won't.
Like for a second, I thought this was going to go. It was like, it's like white noise. The 2 snoring cancel each other out. And then there's silence coming out of the room.
Exactly opposite waveforms.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd have to try that with a third person in the room.
Right.
And this is how they discovered noise canceling headsets.
They had 2 Osamas snoring in opposite directions. One Osama was laying on his left side, and the other Osama was sleeping on his right side, and then just like the waves perfectly canceled out.
I love it.
I know the physics of noise canceling headphones, but it's still wild to me that we can just shoot the opposite sound wave, and then no sound happens.
Yeah.
Like adding things by subtracting, subtracting things by adding things.
It's wild.
I know it physically makes sense.
Yeah.
But no.
But my brain hurts.
but just no. That seems wrong. Like that somebody could, it makes me want to go to like a really bad GDC talk with like sort of like a gun that can like cancel sound waves. And just mute the speaker every now and then. It'd be like, oh, we're going to that. Okay, here, let's mute that.
Oh no!
I guess you could technically do it.
Technically, I guess it's possible. Although, like it's an open room, so the echoes and the vibrations probably wouldn't make it work very well. But
I mean, if it works a little, it would be fun. Like just being able to mute somebody in real life sounds like fun.
Right. Depending on the person,
that's what you have Zoom calls for.
Right. The biggest downside of Zoom calls is I think when you mute people, you mute them for everybody.
Yeah, that's true.
That's always a little over the top, but sometimes I'm definitely in meetings where I'm like, please stop talking. No. It's better than real life. There you can't mute them, and also people can see you. Yeah. So if you look incredibly bored at somebody talking, people afterwards will go like, Rami, You weren't very impressed, were you? I'm like, oh, was it visible? Did you notice? Was it the part where I rolled my eyes when he started on the next sentence? It's,
As if you can't see that in Rami's face.
right. Yeah. Hey, you always like to pretend you have a poker face, but I have such an easily readable face. It's ridiculous. I'm a terrible liar because it's just, you look at my face and it's just like, Rami, you're not
fooling anyone.
Yeah.
I kind of have the opposite problem where I hype myself up for someone's, like, whatever someone's saying, and sometimes I laugh early when something isn't funny. And I'm like, wait, that wasn't appropriate. I'm sorry. Yeah,
an Egyptian and an Iraqi walk into a bar and you just start laughing and they're like, and one of them died. And it's
why am I laughing?
It's still a surprise turnover, so it's still kind of funny. It's more like bit, but it's kind of funny.
There was that time where they did a lot of jokes with like a build up, but then a very sad punchline, and I feel like Osama, that must have been a nightmare for Osama.
It was, but it happens in meetings too. Like when someone says something that I would expect to be a joke or funny, and they were serious, it was a real comment, and I'm like, oh no.
He was like,
I'm like, oh, you're serious? That's me. I'm sorry, that's terrible.
Yeah.
What can I do?
Yeah. You could try.
How do you fix that? It's involuntary. I don't know.
I mean, you can fix it by holding your laughter for a second.
That's impossible. Easier said than done.
That's true. It's hard. I don't know. I feel a lot of those things are also just sort of like things you teach yourself over time.
Yeah, you
right?
try.
But also a lot of things you then have to unlearn. Yeah. Like I have this thing where I don't look at people when I'm talking. I look past people most of the time, and then occasionally look at people. But it's because I like watching people react to things, right? But I spend a lot of brain power analyzing how people are reacting. So if I just look at somebody's face, I spend too much time looking for like little expressions or like, like a smile or like a serious face or like, them leaning forward to like think about something. I spend a lot of time of my brain doing that. So if I'm just looking at people, I lose what I'm saying. Like halfway through the sentence, I'm like, oh, they reacted to that. Oh, what might it have been, right? So I look past people, and then at some point I had to sort of like unlearn to look at people a bit more.
Yeah,
because I just seemed uninterested.
You must be really good at poker.
I mean, I can be.
Yeah,
but also because I'm really good at false shuffles, forced shuffles. Oh. Yeah, I can not actually shuffle while shuffling, or like leave cards at the top, or
no, I meant legitimately good at poker. Not good at cheating.
I'm legitimately good. I'm pretty good at poker, but also you shouldn't let me shuffle when we're playing poker.
Oh no,
or any card game for that matter. Do not let me shuffle.
So one of my friends from a million years ago, you're
that old? Wow.
From a really long time ago. Basically, we were teaching him to play poker, but he was good before he learned the rules because he was incredibly good at reading people. He didn't even know what he had in his hand. He didn't know the rules yet, but based on how other people were reacting about what they had in their hands, he would bet. Like, we wouldn't play for real money, but like he would bet and win a lot. Like, it almost didn't matter what he had in his hands. And when he learned to play the game, he actually got worse.
Yeah, because then you're looking at the cards, and poker, you're not really playing cards, you're playing each other, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, actually, like when you don't know what you're doing in poker, like nobody can figure out if you're actually
what you're doing. Yeah,
if you're actually bluffing or you're playing it for real. He must have something really good. He has like a pair of aces.
Exactly.
But aces are good, right?
Yep. No, there is definitely a beginner's advantage to poker. Osama, a million years ago, I just had to look it up, but that means you were from the Paleolithic period?
Let's go with that.
Nice.
No, Osama, don't answer that question. You don't want too many information about you online.
Oh my God! Did you see that about the salary discussion? Did you see that one?
No, I
Wait,
didn't.
which one?
A whole bunch of there's been a bunch of stuff on Games Twitter, but one of the more curious ones was there was sort of this, and this has happened a few times over the last year, but there were a lot of game developers posting salary information
Yeah,
online,
I've done it
which
too.
I thought is really cool. Right, that's awesome. Like we need that level of transparency. I always wish people would also add in which region or country they live.
Yes, yes.
Because comparing a US salary against a European salary, against an African salary, against an Asian salary, against a South American salary, against an Australian salary, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Even within the US, if you're like
It
in
doesn't make
New
sense.
Mexico or San Francisco
Right.
or Florida, it's not the same thing at all.
Right. But that being said, there was this. There's obviously a bunch of pushback. There's always a bunch of pushback. One of the pushbacks, one of the most curious ones I saw, and I just had to respond to, was somebody saying like, "No, you shouldn't do that because it's a risk for hackers." I'm like,
Risk for
what?
hackers.
What network infrastructure are you using that having somebody's rounded salary posted on Twitter is like a verification risk for your network?
Yeah,
Like,
I forgot
how
my
are you
password.
training your?
I forgot my
Yeah.
password. How much do you earn?
Oh no, I got a raise. I have to change my password now.
Your two-factor authentication is the last payment you got from the company or something. It's like, no, that's not how that. Like, and they're like, well, no, it could be used to for social engineering, and I'm like,
What?
which company is going to go? Okay, we need to verify who you are. What's your salary at the moment? Like, that's not. It's just not how it works. That's not how it. Anyway, it's good to see that kind of information, and the continued push for transparency is super good. But that made me laugh. The other thing that happened this week on gaming Twitter was obviously Halo is coming out somewhat soon, and
Yeah, I played the multiplayer and enjoyed that a lot, actually.
yeah,
Me
it's good.
too. It was
It's
good.
very
It was
solid.
a super good game.
Did you see the video of the guy who did a 23 Spartan headshot with a sniper?
Oh no!
What? No.
But that wouldn't surprise me. But I would still be amazed when I see it.
Right. No, the thing was, it was set up, right? Like, it was not
okay.
it wasn't like a random 23 Spartan shot. It was, they just lined up 23 Spartans and then got one of them to shoot with a sniper rifle and just see what happens. And it is really fun.
Wow.
There's a lot of stuff going on, but the bullet moves much slower than you think. Like basically going from hit to hit, but you can clearly see the super exaggerated effect they do, so that when you get a double kill with a single bullet, it feels nice.
Yeah.
It just now triggers 22 times in a row.
Wow.
So
I want to see that.
yeah, it was super good. Yeah, I really enjoyed my time so far in Halo Infinite's multiplayer. I can't wait for the campaign to come out, which I guess by the time this is out,
It should be out. Yeah.
it should be out, right? Should get the friends together to play it.
That
I'm
would be
in.
cool. Yeah, I'd love me some Halo.
It's been a while.
Yeah, the multiplayer is so solid, man. It's really, really good.
Yeah,
They,
really good.
343, I feel like they're finally hitting their stride on this IP, and it makes sense, right? Like 3 games for something as beloved as Halo. That's honestly fast,
Yeah,
right? To get it, like I feel like Halo 4 was pretty good, but just very safe in a weird way.
yeah,
Right? It was like, okay, let's do a lot of the things that people love about Halo, but give it our own tiny spin. I think in Halo 5 they kind of overcorrected
okay.
to make it too much their own thing. I think they kind of lost a lot of what people loved about Halo there. But I feel like now with everything I'm seeing and sort of how things are feeling in 6, it seems like they pulled the best out of 5 and the best out of 4 and just made it into something that I 100% accept as Halo. Right? Like I'm just playing and I'm like, yep, nope, this is right. Like it feels a little bit more Destiny-y than I think I would have liked it, but at the same time, it's very clear that they have a goal of where they're going with the moment-to-moment gameplay anyway.
Yeah, well, the Destiny is Bungie, right? So it has Halo roots.
Right.
Yeah. Have either of you seen the no clip documentary on the Doom, the 2016 version, the one, not the
Yeah.
that was a great documentary. I would really highly recommend it.
I'll have a look again.
Yeah, like just the like without spoiling it, if you can spoil a documentary. Basically, they had a change in leadership at one point and shifts in the team because they were making a game that was good but wasn't Doom. They lost
Mhm.
they lost like what Doom was and why people liked it, and that doesn't mean that they have to go back and not innovate or change anything. It's just the changes have to be in the spirit of why people play that game to begin with.
Right.
And watching that, I learned a lot. So I really
Yeah.
would highly recommend it for anyone.
Okay, I'll definitely watch it then. I
I
love the no clip documentaries. They're pretty.
Yes.
Yeah,
Me too.
yeah, they're so good, so good.
So-
His Game Maker Toolkit and like No Clip
Yeah, that
and like
one's good
actually
too.
just you know, recommendations for anybody who wants to be in games.
The
But-
Game Maker guy started making games, and
Yeah.
I love seeing what he's like. He's going through
Yeah.
it. It's like I'm living
Yeah.
it again from the beginning
Yeah.
because
Yep.
he's smart. He always really analyzed things really well. He did his research. He wasn't talking out of his bum, right? He really knew
no,
what he was talking about.
yeah,
And even through all of that, he tried to make a game and fell flat on his face, and it's so
course.
validating. Where it's like all the paper design in the world, like doing it is not the same.
no theory is helpful and it's
Yes.
really critical, but
Yeah.
it's why so often, you know, and this kind of ties into Halo actually. It's why so often armchair design is so dangerous
Yes.
Mm.
to games, because knowing why you like something or knowing why something works doesn't mean you can do something good with it,
Exactly.
right? It just means that you understand what it is at that point and why it works at that point, but you might not be seeing all the other stuff that is sitting under that is foundational to that work. Like with Doom, I remember talking to one of the lead designers or the designer on Doom 2016, and they basically just said like, yeah, for level design we were inspired by Pac-Man. I was like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, Pac-Man. It's like the rooms kind of wrap around, right? If you go out the one side, you kind of come back out the other side, and then you look at the levels in Doom
Yeah.
and how the skirmishes are laid out. And yeah, they're sort of like out. The exits are usually these big round movements around the arena,
Yep.
so you can rapidly move relatively safely from the one end to the other end.
Call of Duty actually shifted to that. I think at Modern Warfare, where you didn't have any cul-de-sac. You didn't have any like dead ends. Everything wrapped around. You couldn't have a safe spot where you could just camp and nobody was behind you. I mean, within limits. You know what I mean?
Wait,
Right.
People could always find a way.
I'm a bit confused. You were saying like, you know, Halo was part of the Twitter conversation and armchair design. I don't know what you're talking about exactly.
Oh, they had to shut down the Halo subreddit for toxicity.
Oh,
Like there was just, and we're days from launch, right? But like, so basically, there's you know, Halo has shifted a lot in its business model and also in you know, in what it is. And there's a lot of people that are somewhat unhappy with that, and then there's also the people. And this is obviously a small, loud group of people, but enough that it's overwhelming on the subreddit that just hate it. And they hate it to the point where they're sending threats and they're being insulting. And the community team has been doing an incredible job sort of responding to it, but it got so out of hand that they temporarily shut down the subreddit.
it's you know, as we were just talking about this, like of going through this myself, man, that sucks.
Right.
You know.
It's rough. It's so rough. And it's so sad because what we're trying to do is we're trying to make nice things for people and we're putting years of our life into it. And I know that sometimes it can be disappointing, right?
Yeah.
Like sometimes you wait for something, and I play games myself. Sometimes I play a game and I've waited for it for years, and then I play it and I'm just like, oh.
It didn't
Well,
come together. Like the
yeah,
hope
like-
while you're making, especially the big games, but it applies for all games. The hope is that it comes together at the end, and sometimes one or two things just don't come together the way you had
Right.
before. And how do you pivot at that point? People need to have a little bit of empathy and understanding that
Right.
nobody wants to make a bad game.
Also, like, you know, like a game.
Almost nobody. I know some people that intentionally make bad
Oh,
games,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I love them, and it's great. But yeah.
I take that back. You're right.
Most people try to make good games.
You know, a lot of people you can disagree with design decisions. You can disagree with things that you dislike. Of course, feedback is wonderful. But first of all, you got to keep in mind, like, especially with stuff like Halo, a game that's enjoyed by millions of people, it's very hard to make a million people happy about the same thing. I mean, like, it's, excuse me, it's kind of hard to get 5 people to agree where to have dinner together, you know?
Right. Or who pays the bill?
Pays the bill?
Who pays the bill? to get like 12 people, to move that example over 1 million people to agree on a design decision or what makes Halo or whatever game itself, like there's going to be a lot of opinions on things, and that's fine. But just keep in mind that this is what developers are going through, that they have to make something for the mass market. And ultimately, sharing feedback, talking to people, even like sharing frustration, all of that is cool, but it's never cool to send death threats or character assassination or stuff like that.
Right. It's just the thing that and this kind of goes back to the Game Maker's Toolkit as well, right? Making games is just more complicated than it seems, and it's weird because I think the games industry, when it was a bit younger than us, except for Osama.
You mean a million years ago?
Yes, in the Paleolithic age, when game development was somewhat younger. No, but I think there was this moment in time where games really, and game development in particular, really wanted to promote itself as rock stars.
Yeah.
Right. As people who knew what they were doing and they were really good at it. And I think the reality of game development, and this is sort of a controversial thing I say, is that none of us know what we're doing. We're just really good at that.
Yeah.
Right. We're just really good at being somewhere and knowing that we kind of want to go there. And what we want to create is a great, let's say, Battlefield experience. Right. And that you have what Battlefield is, and you have where you think the market is going, and you have what you think the audience wants, and you have what you think people liked, and you have what you want to do different so that you're not just making the same game again, right? And you're looking at the new opportunities that are afforded by technology, and the new opportunities that are afforded by networking, and the new opportunities that are afforded by your team being more experienced than they were the previous time before. And you're looking at all that, and you're putting everything together. But then when things come together, people think that this is like a beautiful machine. And it's not. Like, you're working with like politics, you're working with people, you're working with motivation, you're working with technology, you're working with code that gets written and then rewritten and then changed, and then the art needs to be adjusted. It's the whole thing with the whole NFT discussion, where people are saying like, you can have a T-shirt and then you can bring it between different games. And I'm like, how much work it would be to make a single texture work across different games by different publishers with different requirements for animations. Made in different engines with different light, using different shader models. Like, it just, everything in games is this giant Jenga tower. Right. And whenever you pull a piece out and you place it somewhere else on the tower, you just have to hope that it keeps standing. And we just got really good at keeping the tower standing. That's experience. Experience isn't knowing what you're doing. It's knowing how to keep things moving in the right direction.
From keeping things from collapsing, basically.
Right.
There's unrealistic expectations with that kind of stuff as well, right?
Right. But that's kind of the thing. Like, and a lot of game developers say that, but every game that ships is a miracle. But then, of course, not everything is perfect. And people go like, back in the days when people couldn't patch. I'm like, back in the days when people couldn't patch, you would play a game and it would just break.
Yeah, and they had to live
with it. It wasn't
like,
that was it. The game just ended here now, and that was it. Like, we were done.
And also that game was much smaller.
Right. Right. That game was made by 2 people across 3 months. And it still had game-breaking bugs. It's just, you knew not to do that because in the schoolyard, you talk to each other and go like, you shouldn't go to the don't go to the back left corner of that room because you won't be able, it'll break.
Watch the speed run of an old game and see some of those bugs.
But that's the thing. I don't know. Like, game development, I love the job. Right? It's such a wonderful job, but it's such a human job. And I think people see game development as a technical job, and like 90% of it is people. Right? It's like people doing work, communicating with people, keeping things aligned, making stuff that they care about or stuff that they think will be valuable to the game. And, that can be anything. Sometimes somebody is modeling the same thing for 3 years of their life, right? And it's this giant space in the game, and they're the owner of that space, and they're just working with a whole bunch of teams to get everything in that space to look absolutely perfect. And sometimes it's somebody coding for like 20 minutes to fix a thing. Like, all of that is game development.
Absolutely. And like, ultimately what you said, the human part of this is that these are people. These are,
Right.
people with feelings, people with lives, people with normal human needs. The other day, like
Right.
I think on Twitter, one of my colleagues was posting, or my ex-colleagues was posting, their breakfast. I think it was eggs
Right.
or something like this. And then like, everybody's going like, oh, that looks cool, delicious, whatever. And then like there's a couple of people like, why are you eating breakfast? You should be fixing bugs.
Right.
And
Right.
like,
oh my god!
And I'm like, give these people a platform-wide ban from playing video games.
Yeah, I mean,
that's right. That's basically where I'm at. I'm so done with this. I have to.
You can't have breakfast.
Right. No.
Can you listen to yourself? What you're asking?
Right. And it's always about like, this gun is like 2% too powerful. And we're like, if we lower the efficiency of that gun, like it's the old adage, right? Like everything I use is underpowered, and everything that kills me is OP.
Yeah.
Right. That's the rule, and I've always been taught with balance. If everybody's complaining, that it's good, and it's kind of awful that that's the reality. But
and also like it's a it's a gross misunderstanding of game development in which like there's this problem, this is the obvious solution, then it's done. And you're like, no, but game development is a house of cards. Like if you make an adjustment here, it's going to break 30 other things on the other side. And believe me, we've tried. We don't think of everything, but we've tried a lot.
That's right.
And like
your suggestion, we've probably tried it, and it probably broke something else, and it probably
exactly. Like especially if it's like this is so obvious, I don't know why the dev team didn't think of it. The answer
because
is
we did think of it.
We did think of it. We tried it out, and it didn't work for a variety of reasons.
A ridiculous suggestion in the end because it can't be done. Yeah, no, I don't know. Like I'm really tired of toxicity in the community, and I think as the industry is adjusting itself to be less toxic from within, I think it's also going to be time to start looking at how we can make it less toxic from without. And so much respect to all the community managers and the sort of like frontline people
Hats
that are
off
working.
To all of them for sure.
Just absolute heroes. Deserve so much more recognition for what they do, and honestly deserve so much more salary for what they do. But just incredible work, and the same thing on the Halo team, and I'm sure on the Battlefield 2042 team. Just people doing incredible work. I used to do community management for Vlambeer, and it is hard work. It really is.
Agreed completely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just incredible.
Yeah. All the best to those guys. Thank you very much.
Speaking of community.
Oh yes, speaking of interacting with the community.
Am I up?
It's your turn.
You can also send us emails here at the Habibis. Send us emails at info@thehabibis.com, and Osama will read them to us online.
You said .com in such a way that I really thought you were trying to say Pepsi, but as an Arab. .com.
.com. Send us emails at info@thehabibis.com.
Beautiful.
عايز حاجة ولا مش عايز حاجة؟ كله تمام. كله تمام.
All right, I'll pick it up from there. So we have an
Please
email.
pick it up from here.
We have an email from one of our listeners and now writers, Max. Max says, I've been listening to the podcast since day one, so thank you so much for so many insightful and funny episodes. You're welcome, Max. One question for the end section. What are your favorite non-game design related books? And yes, that includes comics, Osama. Good. So I could talk about comics. I'm excited. So who wants to go first?
Our favorite non-design books.
Yeah. He specified non-game design. So I suppose we could talk about the design of other things.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of books, but maybe we could talk about novels and comic books as well. Oh my God, I have so many.
Yes, me too. I don't know how I could narrow it down. Like it would take me hours to like sift through and decide.
Let's narrow it down between the three of us to genres. So let's go the three of us on comic books.
Okay.
Then let's go the three of us on novels.
Okay.
And then let's go the three of us on non-fiction, non-game design related.
Okay. I'm
in. Okay. So I'll try to go with one each. Starting. So favorite I need to but narrowing it down to one is also the hardest part, I guess. Yeah. All right. Comic book. This is so hard.
It is very hard.
Maybe
Very, very
Watchmen.
hard.
I love
Yeah.
Watchmen.
Watchmen is great.
Watchmen is
really
one
is.
of the best ever. I love Watchmen. Best novels. One of my favorite authors is a Japanese author. His name is Osamu Dazai. And he has a book called No Longer Human, Ningen Shikaku. I like it a lot.
Wow.
It's a dark book, so I'm not sure if I recommend it, but I'm a big fan. None. I can probably recommend a book from last year in the theme of in the theme of today's episode. A non-fictional book that I recommend is called Nonviolent Communication. before you
Wow.
post hate on Reddit, try to read this
that book.
Those are excellent. All excellent options. Oh man, do I go next, Rami? Do you want to go next?
Yeah, no, I'm thinking. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of what the book is.
I'm
because
thinking
I can't find the
too,
title.
but I'll try to think out loud since we're
All right,
not
think out
there.
loud. Think out loud.
So okay, so I'll start with the novel. I mean, I know it's going to sound a little bit, I guess obvious, but I'm a huge fan of the Game of Thrones books or the Song of Ice and Fire. After reading them, I had a really hard time going back to reading other fantasy books because they were so well written. There was one exception to that where there's an author called Patrick Rothfuss who wrote a book called The Name of the Wind, which was really good. The way I would describe it is going to get me a lot of hate, but I'll say it anyway. It's like Harry Potter but good. So
Okay.
so it's more accurate to say it's like Harry Potter but for adults, I guess. It doesn't have the Harry Potter starts off young, right? I would highly recommend it. The second category, I believe, was nonfiction. I'd have to give it to the book I loved reading when I was really young, Autobiography of Malcolm X. It actually changed my life in many different ways.
Wow, man, that's nice.
It created a lot of empathy in me for people who had different walks of life, but Malcolm X also overlapped with a lot of things about me, about my identity. Being someone who converted to Islam and became Muslim, but all that it was an eye-opening book. I highly recommend it. It's incredible. For the third category, I guess that overlaps already with Patrick Rothfuss, the nonfiction. I could go two routes. I could cheat and give a book that's not about game design, but that could help game designers. It's called Understanding Comics by Clout.
I was gonna use that one.
Oh wow,
that's a great book, though.
Brutal.
It's an amazing book. It'll help you.
It's very good.
Yeah, it just helps you like structure your thoughts and understand like different layers of abstraction. It's an excellent book. But if you're looking for a comic book recommendation, Watchmen is really good and really tough to beat. Another one I would suggest is, I mean, if you're talking about just like recent favorites, Miss Marvel, like absolutely incredible. And another one that it's a little bit out of left field is Black Sad, which is a really good film noir French BD, the French bande dessinée or graphic novel about a Black Panther detective. But I'm not really into the anthropomorphic animal thing, and it still hooked me. So like that's an achievement. But I could go on forever talking about a million books. It's so hard to narrow it down. As I'm talking, I keep thinking of more. I should have said this. I should have said that. Anyway, you take it, Rami.
Okay. So first was nonfiction.
Yeah, we can go in any order. Nonfiction, comic, fiction.
I have two. In nonfiction, the book that probably shaped me most was called A Short History of Nearly Everything. Was written by a guy named Bill Bryson, and it basically is a like layperson's introduction to all of science. And it's super good. It starts with an intro that always stuck with me of just how lucky we are to be alive, or for anything to be alive, or for the universe to exist. And it kind of goes back through like all the steps and tiny coincidences that needed to happen for this conversation to occur. And it's just it's a very good book. It goes into kind of everything. And then the other one was a book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, which I can really recommend. It's sort of like a philosophy book that goes about a sort of road trip between a father and his son. But it's like just super, super interesting. Then
unexpected
in the
recommendation. I'm really intrigued.
Yeah,
both very good books.
Yeah.
And then in nonfiction, I really like a book by a guy named Carl Schroeder that's called Ventus. And I don't think a lot of people have read that book. I think it's free. You can just download it as an ebook as well nowadays. But it is a sci-fi fantasy story that also goes into like self-determination. It gets pretty philosophical throughout, but it's a really fun book to read. And then I really like the Ancillary series by Anne Leckie. Starts with Ancillary Justice and then Sword and then Mercy. Sci-fi series. Really, really deeply enjoyed those. And then comics, Osama already picked mine. It's okay. It's okay. It's a very good recommendation. I mean, beyond that, the comics I loved were the comics I read as a child, but they're mostly local. So you've got the Suska and Viska series, which they're Belgian actually, but that's what I grew up with. Two kids that go on like ridiculous adventures throughout time and space and everything. Usually ended up in some sort of historical local happening, and then had to save the universe there. It was fun. Those were good.
Well, excellent recommendations. All right, I think we're gonna go on for more questions. Wait, where did I lose the email? I found the email. There you go. So we have an email by Mustafa. I believe he's written before. He said, "Oh yeah, actually, he says a repeat mailer here. He just confirmed that he has written before. I really enjoyed the most recent episode, a tribute to Fawzi, and your comments on speaking Arabic resonated with me. Technically, my first language when I was growing up was Arabic. But when I started going to school, my parents switched to English and never switched back. I can still understand mostly, but my word recall is atrocious. And now I try to avoid speaking Arabic as much as possible because I don't like feeling dumb. I'm glad to hear I'm not the only one." So that's relatable. He goes on to ask a question, actually, kind of. "I also quite enjoyed your segment at the end of the same episode where you were picking one nice thing to say about Fawzi. I thought it was heartwarming and wholesome."
It was very heartwarming for me, for sure.
Aww.
So I guess he's bringing us a challenge. He says, "I was wondering if you had to pick only one good thing to say about each other or your fellow Habibis, what would you say?" Wait, does that mean that me and Rami go too, or did we do our part and say good things about Fawzi?
You've done enough last time.
Well, no, I want to say nice things about Osama.
I want to say nice things about Rami too.
Yeah. I mean, like, don't do me.
We've already had you. I mean, exactly. I can continue to give you compliments because I love you, and I would happily do that.
I said I wanted to touch your facial hair. There's no better compliment than that.
That's the maximum compliment.
That's true. That's true.
No,
with consent,
Osama is one of the warmest, kindest people I've ever met, and just makes people feel at ease and comfortable, and takes a lot of effort to do that. It looks very natural, but I'm sure there's a lot going on to make sure to do that. And I extremely, extremely value that about Osama.
Well, I feel the same way. Osama somehow manages to make everybody feel better. He has an area of effect spell around him. So as you approach his radius, then you'll feel the buff. Your mood gets better. You feel happier. You smile a lot more, and you feel an insatiable appetite for hugging.
I love it. Thank you so much.
He has this area of effect around him. So
you have an area of effect on me now. I'm crying.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
Cannot be dispelled. Cannot be stunned. There's no way to repel it. You're gonna just have to embrace it.
This is such a game designer description. I love it. Did you write a Confluence page?
Not yet. I'll build a straw man, and then we'll try to see if there's any weaknesses. Because we need to design a counter for it as well.
Not sure it can be done. I think the game will crash.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn with Rami. Rami, honestly, is inspirational. He is one of the people who cares about other people and spends so much of his time and effort for everyone else. I've never seen anything like it. Like before, I thought I wanted to reach what Rami is doing in just how big his heart is and how big his hands and his outreach is. And now I realize that I would probably die if I reached halfway. It is incredible. Like he's an unsung hero. He helps so many different people in so many different communities without talking about it, without anyone else know it. I've seen glimpses of it here and there, and he's just so humble. And you know, we have an expression: the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. That's Rami. Rami's constantly giving from one side
in more than one ways, because I'm clumsy as well.
See, the humility comes out again. So that's Rami in a nutshell. Aspirational in a way I couldn't fathom.
So I guess for me to not say what Osama said, so I'm not going to repeat things. I think one of the things I admire the most about Rami is that he takes matters into his own hands. So like if he feels that there's something that can be done about something, he will go out and do it. So if there's a game that needs to be made, he'll do it. If there's people that need help, he'll go out and help them. If there's a podcast that needs editing, he will edit it himself. So I like that Rami doesn't think twice when it comes to like taking charge of matters that mean something to him, and especially when it comes to helping others out. So yeah,
well, someone's right. You all are gonna make me cry.
Oh man, that was so beautiful.
I like that he's very tall and has a weird attachment to his leather jacket. I'm not sure if I like that or if I'm bewildered by it, but yeah, one of the two. On that note, even if you have more emails, Osama, let's keep them till next time.
Yes, good idea.
Because we're going way over on our time.
Oh, yeah, wow.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, with everybody in tears right now, will be the best episode. The best time for us to close out this episode. So
the next emo is just us going...
Yeah, exactly. We need to go find some Kleenex and like blow our noses and all that stuff.
Yeah, just cry. This is good. This is good. It's always nice to be nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Join us next week for another episode of the Habibis. But for the time being, salam.
Salam.
That was the Habibis podcast for this week. I am Fawzi Masmar, your host for this episode. You can find me on Twitter at Fawzi Masmar. My fellow Habibis were Osama Dorias, who you can find on Twitter at Osama Dorias, and Rami Ismail, who you can find on Twitter at THA_Rami. Send us your questions, stories, and suggestions via info@thehabibis.com. Intro and outro music was provided by Malik Zubayla, and the logo was provided by Ibrahim Hamdi. The Habibis is a weekly podcast about 3 game developers drinking good Arab tea, with new episodes launching every Friday, inshallah. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe to your favorite podcasting service, or check out thehabibis.com for more information. Thank you for listening. Salam.